Welcome to Throw Off the Lines, the podcast where we navigate life's changes, explore new horizons, and embrace the journey. I'm your host, Stephanie York, an executive coach with a passion for charting new courses on the water and in life. Ready for some total change? Let's dive in. Welcome to episode 5 in our manifestation series, and I'm really glad if you're still here with me on this. I've been having so much fun with it, and I'm kind of recording this all at the same time, and once I get it done, I'm going to start doing a manifestation practice and really trying to use myself as an example, because I have some big projects I'm trying to work on, and some of them are way outside of my comfort zone. So I feel like I've got these recorded, and then these episodes are the ones I'm going to follow along. So it's kind of exciting. So episode number 5 in our series is manifestation in harmony, and I felt this is a really great topic. It's create without causing harm. And, I try to talk about being kind, try to talk about our place in the world. But here I want to talk about true manifestation. It's not just about getting what you want. It's about doing so in harmony with others, the world around you, and your higher self. So in this episode, we're going to explore why aligned manifestation must never come at the cost of someone else's well-being, and how to create ethically and responsibly. Because we don't want somebody saying, I want to own the world, and I want to have employees I barely pay. I want to make $1 million off the back of other people, and I want that guy's wife, or I want that person's jewelry, and I'm manifesting stuff. That is not the way it works, or that's what we're going to talk about today. So again, this podcast series is inspired by the book The Source by Dr. Swart. I highly recommend you get the book. There's going to be a link at the bottom of all the show notes for that. And today we're diving into a vital and often overlooked principle, harmony in manifestation. So you can manifest your dreams and still be kind and still be ethical and still be in integrity. If you have to manipulate or take shortcuts or harm others to win, it's not manifestation. It's fear in disguise. It's a fear of lack. And that's kind of the opposite of manifestation. Manifestation is coming from abundance, and I like to think love as well, and gratitude, and that there's plenty for everybody. But if you're feeling like I have to take from other people and I want to manifest this thing, it's really hard. It's just you being afraid that you don't have enough, or that you're not enough, or that you have to have something somebody else has, and that is not manifestation. So, I'm a very competitive person myself. I want to win when I'm competing, and I was often taught I was competing against others for recognition and money and power and mates, and it was a constant in my life. But my value is way heavy on me. I now know there's enough for all of us. The lie I was told that there's a limited amount of men, money, jobs was another way to control me. And all of society was saying this to us, and women were only of value when they could trade themselves for certain things, and I come at manifestation from a point of morality that it is in alignment with my own moral code. My moral code is I don't want to hurt other people. I'm mortified if something I do hurts another person, and I'm trying to walk in a place of kindness and giving, and that's my purpose. That's my soul wants to do that. So I can't manifest outside of harmony because it just feels inauthentic. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and maybe how to detect when you are being ego-driven or aligned-driven. So Dr. Swart offers this statement: neuroscience shows us that our success is deeply influenced by our relationships and our alignment with shared human values. And I talk about that other quote, that you are a culmination of the 5 people you hang out with. And I do talk about on my other podcast episodes, look around at all the people you hang out with. Are they as healthy? Are they as balanced? Are they happy? Do they bring to you things? Do they cherish you? Do they build you up? Do they support you? If you're not in relationships with friends like that, you need to maybe get a couple more new friends. So let's talk about the ego versus the aligned self, because that's a whole nother psychology framework. But when we're talking about what Dr. Swart talks about in her book, and she's a neuroscientist, we want to talk about the framework of the psychology of self, if you will. So there's the ego, the id, and all that. We're not going to break that down. What we want to talk about is just the ego, and then when you're only manifesting from that ego place, and when you're manifesting from an aligned self. And the ego says, get what you want no matter what. And we know a lot of people in the news right now. We hear a lot of people out there that are just trying to get what they can and get theirs. And that's the ego screaming. And again, a lot of that is fear-based. It's a zero-sum game. There's only 10 things out there, and I want one, if not 4. And that's ego and fear. And an alignment says, get what you want in a way that's sustainable, kind, and true. And I talk to people who say, well, the world isn't kind. And I say, but you can decide to be kind. And I'm not saying you're a doormat. I'm not a doormat. I stand up for myself. And I have really aggressive conversations with people about things. I want to help with conflict resolution. And I want to be available to people I don't agree with so that I can learn. And maybe they can learn from me. And that's the only way to counter some of the divide that we have. But you can align and be kind and sustainable and true to your own core and not be a doormat. Be very solid and secure. And you can then, when you come from that place, you see people that are ego-driven. You see messages that are coming at you that are inauthentic. And so let's go over, I'm going to have a little graph in the show notes, which I think is really important for us to look at ego versus aligned self through key points. So what's the aspect? What's a key point? A core belief. An ego will say, I'm not enough unless I have more. And an aligned self will say, I am whole and I create from wholeness. I'm not lacking. I just would like to do these things because it's fulfilling and purpose-driven, and I don't have to have more. I'm solid, I'm safe. But you can see when an ego says, I'm not enough unless I have more, that's fear-based, and that's a zero-sum thing. And then there's motivation. What's the aspect? What's the motivation? Ego is driven by fear, lack, or they require validation. And an aligned self, you're driven by purpose, values, and love. And moving from that ego to the aligned self can be very, very painful because you're letting go of a structure that it's a house of cards, but it feels like it's the only thing you have. So as you're working through this, if you find yourself that you were a little self-centered and you want to manifest love in your life, I've met a lot of people that are actually in their late 40s and early 50s that are single out in the world, and they never met somebody, and they're realizing that they judged people. They felt they were being judged, and now they're afraid they've lost their opportunity. And I tell them, just go back into yourself and find out what your purpose is. Listen to some of my podcasts, work on your self-speak, work on this manifestation process so that you can find more purpose and find out what are your core values about yourself and work on yourself to love yourself. You should really love yourself. And if you don't, you're probably working out of ego, and that's not a happy place to be. So then there's also methods. What is the method that each of these aspects use? And it's ego will try to control or force or over-efforting. I'm going to work harder so I get more sales and I have more money, and then somebody will love me because I'm more valuable. And then an aligned self might just want flow and trust and inspired action. Here's my vision board. I want this thing. All right, I'm going to take these 3 steps to get that thing in my life. And I'm going to love myself anyways. I'm going to balance myself when I meet a challenge. I'm going to deep breathe through it. And the method is so much more gentle and loving and kind. And now if you have a desire, if that's the aspect we're looking at this, ego wants what looks good, status, approval. An aligned self wants what feels good, peace, fulfillment, because they already feel like they have an abundant life. And that's going to feel better if I can do that thing or offer that to somebody, or I'm going to talk to somebody about who they are. That is fulfilling. But an ego just wants to talk to the right people and only people that can help them. And that can be very, very lonely. So now relationships. Ego is very transactional. What can I get? What do they have that I want? What will they make me look better? And an aligned self is very relational. How can I serve and grow? And we're not just servant-oriented if we're aligned. It's how can I serve them? How can they serve me? How can we have an interaction that is peaceful and nice, And then results is another aspect. What ego wants, they may achieve goals but feel empty or burnt out because they're not aligned with a true core value. An aligned person achieves meaningful goals with integrity and peace. A response to failure. Ego will feel shame, blame, or double down on it and never accept that they were responsible for behavior. An aligned person will reflect and course correct and have self-compassion when they have a failure. Time focus. Ego is obsessed with the future or the past. They're not living in the present. An aligned self will ground in the present moment, knowing that that is truly all we can affect. We cannot affect the past. We can affect the future, but the future hasn't happened. So we really only have right now, this moment, to do something. And if you're coming from a place of peace and alignment, you know what you want to manifest in your life, and you're doing some of that internal work, well, then you can get more stuff coming towards you that is grounded in that present moment. Power source. Ego is looking constantly for external validation or comparison, and aligned is inner alignment and authenticity. And then a manifestation style. And ego pushes for outcomes, and they're super impatient. And I think if you just listen to my last episode, ego doesn't have a place in manifestation because we have to be patient. If we aren't working on ourselves and getting rid of stress and allowing our brain and our subconscious to absorb these changes, we have to be patient with it, and we have to do the work. Aligned allows space for timing, aligned action, and grace. So the ego is always operating from fear and scarcity, and you need to think, if you're aligned and manifesting from fear and scarcity, you're never going to get manifestation to work for you. And an aligned self operates from truth and trust. And sometimes it's scary to trust, but you're doing this all on your own. You're journaling your fears, you're coming back and revisiting them, and then you're learning with small wins and small victories, and all of a sudden a coincidence. Somebody comes across your path that has exactly what you need and exactly who you want in your life, and bam, then, we've got another proof of process. And then we trust a little bit more, and now we're manifesting a little bit more, but ego is going to say, I'm not getting it fast enough, so this isn't working, and then they're going to quit. And that's sad because they're usually very unhappy people. So a little neuroscience note, empathy and morality are part of your brain's natural wiring, especially in the prefrontal cortex. So when we are working with empathy and a moral code and a value system, we help more quickly rewire our prefrontal cortex to open up creativity and manifest more through energy and all of that. Acting against these instincts triggers stress and inner conflict. Cognitive dissonance creates an internal conflict that will ultimately derail the manifestation and sour it, turn it against you, and could create additional harm and stress. So I remember when I wanted to stop drinking, I did not like myself. I was hurting myself. I was hurting other people. I was miserable. And it was about the fact that I knew I wanted to do it and I couldn't stop drinking, and I was in a miserable place in my life, and I just had to chuck it all and start over. And when I did that, there was no more cognitive dissonance. I was acting from a stressless place and just moving towards manifestation. So Dr. Swart says true manifestation elevates the self and respects the systems around you. You don't come from ego. You recognize that the world has got a lot of alignments going on and a lot of people, and you elevate yourself, but you respect that there's a system around you, and you work within that gently. So why harmony matters? You can't attract peace if your actions generate harm. It's impossible. Manifestation that comes from greed, competition, or deception is not sustainable and often collapses under its own weight. So keep that in mind. If you're going to come at this with greed and other things, then, you're probably not listening to this series anyways. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how this is often referred to as shadow manifestation. You may find that if you go out looking. Shadow manifestation is ego-based manifestation, and it has other names: ego-based, manipulative manifestation, misaligned manifestation, manifestation from lack. So if you're trying to manifest because you don't have enough, again, it's that zero-sum gain, and it's so ego-based. So what that looks like is frequently, see if any of this applies to you. Greed, wanting more for the sake of power, excess, or status without regard for consequences. It also looks like competition, needing to win or succeed by beating others rather than co-creating or collaborating. Deception, manifesting through lies, manipulation, or pretending to be someone you're not to get what you want. That is not manifestation. And why it's harmful: it often leads to short-term gains, but long-term disconnection, burnout, or collapse. And it feeds insecurity, envy, and scarcity in others, and it violates trust with others and with your own deeper self. So there's ethical framework. Instead of how can I get more, ask, how can I create more in a way that's true, generous, and aligned with my values? So write that down. How can I create more in a way that's true, generous, and aligned with my values? And I'm going to do an episode on values and try to figure out, what are your values and how can we use that for manifestation? And you probably know what some of the basic ones are, but we can talk about it other times. So signs you're out of harmony. So if you're feeling really ragged, I've been doing this manifestation thing, I've lost my patience. Let's check in. Let's go back to the journal and look for red flags. Do you have guilt or unease around how you're achieving a goal? That's a gut instinct. You should be able to feel good about what's happening and happy about what's happening and purposeful and worthy. Are you secret keeping or manipulative tactics? Are you using those things to get what you want? Are relationships strained by your pursuit of success? And that's somebody, if you're in a relationship with somebody and you're not happy in that relationship and you're trying to find a way out of that relationship, you should be doing inner work, deciding on how can I approach this partner and either fix this thing or leave it the best I can. And I'm obviously not talking about situations that are out of your control, or if you're in an abusive relationship. That's not something I think anybody should have to deal with. But when we're manipulating relationships, that's not in harmony. So what this does to your brain and energy, really think about this, because I want you to look at those red flags. It activates your stress response. That is one thing that will not allow your prefrontal cortex to do any creative thinking. And it creates subconscious blocks. You know it's not right. We know when things are not right. We know when things are not aligned with our values. And that's that cognitive dissonance. I want to be healthier and I want to be happier and I want to live a good life and I want to have willpower. But why am I drinking 4 or 5 nights a week? Why am I hurting people around me? Why am I doing things that are damaging to myself? Red flags. So here's something to think about. Am I proud of the way I'm going after this desire? Ask yourself that. Write it down in your journal. And then, would I feel good if this was printed on the front page of a newspaper? My grandma used to always say, don't do anything you can't take a picture of. Oh, grandma, they are taking pictures of everything now. But it's true. If you wouldn't want people to know about it, if you would be ashamed, this is probably out of alignment. So think about those things. Write those down. Would I feel good if others knew about this? So let's talk about how to manifest in harmony. Choose integrity-based desires that uplift you and don't rely on someone else losing. So in a competition, you can want everybody to do their best, but you just want to win. That's okay. But if you really hope that person who's really good competition gets injured during the race or something bad happens to them, that is not integrity-based. Ask, does this create good in my life and others? And then how does this feel to me in my heart, in my gut? Does this feel good? Does it feel in harmony? You'll know. We know. We just sometimes ignore that. And again, we might be suffering from feelings of misalignment, and we use things to cover that up. So you also are going to want to consider what the ripple effects of your actions are. Before you act, ask, what is the ripple effect of this decision? If I do this thing, who is it going to impact? In a good way and in a bad way. And assess, is what I'm doing okay? Make sure that you're in alignment with the outcome of the effects of your actions. And then visualization tool. Imagine your action as a wave. Who and what does it touch? That is a really great question. The reason I do this podcast is I started to do it for me. And then over time, I am getting people to reach out to me and saying, that really helped me. And so I'm now driven that hopefully this ripples out and helps people. And I don't feel that it's going to hurt people, but you've always got negative people out there that come from fear and things. And that's okay. So also, next, step 3, align your nervous system with peace. Manifestation is easier when your body is calm. Breath work, compassion practices, and gratitude are tools for energetic harmony. So look at whatever your body is calm, and whenever you're able to align your nervous system with peace, you shouldn't be setting off anxiety or worry. Focus on co-creation. This is step number 4. Collaborate with life. Don't dominate it. Feel happy and at peace most of the time. Leave room for others to rise with you. There's room for all of us. So think of these 4 steps in how to manifest in harmony. Choose integrity-based desires. Consider your ripple effects. Align your nervous system with peace, and then focus on co-creation with the world and others. And then think about this too. Here's another reflection question. Where can I move with more compassion this week? Can I reach out to somebody I know who's struggling? Can I go to the local dog shelter and walk some dogs? Can I donate my clothing to the organization that's raising money for something? Can I cook soup for a friend who's not well? All of these things are compassion, and being of service is so rewarding. But don't force yourself on people. But how can I move with compassion this week? Next, what's one small change I can make to manifest more ethically and peacefully? Can I go in and scrub my manifestations and my vision board and my actions for any egocentric actions? Absolutely. And then I want to pose the harmony challenge. This week, pause before every major decision or action and ask, is this in harmony with who I truly want to be? Now, you don't need to stop if you're going to dial the phone and call somebody. You don't need to stop if you're going to make dinner. I mean, be realistic about it. But check in with yourself for the action based on your vision action board. I'm going to do this thing to try to manifest. I'm going to take an action step for that. And is this in harmony with who I truly want to be? And then a closing affirmation. You can write this in your journal. I create my dreams with grace, integrity, and respect for all life. I walk gracefully with integrity and respect for all life. Write that down in your journal and keep it close to you. Now, lastly, when you create from harmony, what you receive will feel whole. Stay tuned for our next episode. And we're going to talk about more. We're just going to close out the whole concept. We'll explore how to encourage anyone listening to feel how things are shifting for you. I found early on in my manifestation that I was changing as I reviewed what I wanted, and my goals changed as well. What I thought would make me happy was not actually correct. I was actually manifesting things. I had to be really careful. Manifesting things that I thought would make other people think highly of me. And then I realized I didn't want to do those things. I was injuring myself. And it's fascinating that I all of a sudden didn't want to do those things anymore because I was able to see very clearly that it was coming from an ego place. And it's so freeing. Now I work on aligning my manifestation with the goal of living a life of purpose and service to others and helping them transform into leaders in their own lives. So I hope today's episodes helped you. It's not always an easy topic, but important all the same. Until next time, take a look at some of the other podcast episodes and let us know if you have any questions, feedback, or would like to be a guest. Until then, throw off the lines that are holding you back and work on deciding whether you're ego-driven or aligned-driven, and keep pushing yourself towards that alignment. That's when you're in harmony with the universe and things start to come to you. So I hope you have a total day and just take care. Thank you for joining me on Throw Off the Lines. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe for future episodes and extras, and leave a review, share it with someone who needs a total inspiration. You can also find us on Facebook or Instagram and our Throw Off the Lines website. If you want to be a guest or have questions for the host, sign up on the website and we'll get back to you. Until next time, throw off those lines and live your best life.